I knew the night was going to be uncomfortable, but I didn't expect my mother to shatter me before the appetizers even reached the table. I can still hear her voice in that polished, dismissive tone she always used when she wanted to sound superior. She set her wine glass down, looked directly at me, and said, "I'm rewriting my will. She's not in it." For a moment I didn't understand who she was. Then her eyes narrowed slightly, and I felt the sting before the truth even formed in my mind. She meant me, her second daughter, the one who had rearranged her entire life to help her after her diagnosis, the one who volunteered to go through hours of testing and medical screenings to be approved as her kidney donor, the one who never once asked for recognition, the one sitting right across from her at that dinner table, foolishly hoping this family could get through one meal without someone being torn down. Before I could process it, my sister Sabrina let out a sharp, delighted laugh. She actually clapped her hands. "Finally," she said, leaning back in her chair like she'd been waiting years for this declaration. Sabrina always loved moments where she could win by default. If I was kicked out, it meant she was automatically elevated. My younger brother Caleb didn't waste a second piling on. He stabbed a piece of bread with his fork and shook his head with a smug grin. "She never deserved it anyway," he said. "This is the right call, Mom." It was like the two of them had been rehearsing, a synchronized attack, a shared victory they'd been itching to celebrate. I felt my stomach twist, but I kept my face as calm as possible. I had learned long ago that my mother loved watching me react, so I didn't give her the satisfaction. My mother, Diana, folded her napkin neatly in her lap, the way she did when she wanted to pretend she was refined. "It's just a decision that makes sense," she said. "Everyone needs to understand their place." Their place. I knew what that meant. To her, Sabrina was the shining child with a high-paying job and perfect posture. Caleb was the charming youngest who could do no wrong, even when he did everything wrong. I was the one who worked quietly, raised my daughter alone, and showed up whenever she needed something. But effort didn't matter to Diana. Image did. And I wasn't part of the picture she cared to show the world. My daughter Lily sat beside me, small hands folded in her lap, shoulders slightly curled inward. She had been unusually quiet all evening, watching the adults with the kind of wide-eyed focus only an 8-year-old could manage. She loved her grandmother. She loved everyone at that table because she didn't understand yet how cruel adults could be when resentment became part of their identity. I reached over and gently brushed Lily's arm with my fingers. She looked up at me with her soft brown eyes, and I gave her the smallest smile I could manage, silently, telling her I was okay. I wasn't okay, but I didn't want her to feel it. Inside, something was unraveling. I kept thinking, after everything I've done, after everything I've planned, after everything I was willing to risk, not even for money or inheritance, but for the hope that maybe, just maybe, this family still had a chance to be whole. As I tried to swallow the hurt tightening my throat, I noticed my mother's satisfied expression. She was watching me, waiting for a reaction. She wanted to see me break. Sabrina leaned forward, eyes bright, and Caleb smirked like he was enjoying a show. Before I could respond, before I could even decide if I wanted to stay or walk out, Lily set her fork down gently on the table. The sound was soft but sharp enough to pull every pair of eyes toward her. She lifted her chin, looked straight at my mother, and asked in her tiny, steady voice, "Grandma, does that mean you don't want the kidney anymore?" The room froze. My mother's hand slipped, and her fork clattered loudly against the plate. Sabrina's jaw dropped. Caleb blinked like someone had slapped him. Lily continued, "The one Mom was going to donate next month?" Every adult in the room stared at her as if the walls had caved in. My heart pounded because the secret was out. The thing we were supposed to discuss privately. The sacrifice my mother never acknowledged. The truth I never planned to use against her. And it came from the one person who had been watching the whole evening unfold with innocent clarity. In that moment, the entire atmosphere shifted. The power in the room moved away from the people who thought they controlled me and landed in the hands of a child who simply told the truth. That was the moment everything changed. Before that disastrous dinner, my life felt like a slow balancing act held together by hope, exhaustion, and the small victories only a single mother truly understands. Most days began before sunrise. I woke up early to pack Lily's lunch, braid her hair, and make sure she felt loved before school. She always hugged me tightly at the door, whispering, "You're the best, Mom." And those moments carried me through days that often felt heavier than I showed. My ex-husband, Aaron, had left when Lily was 3. He chose a new life, a new partner, and a new excuse for being absent. I tried not to resent him, but raising a child alone meant learning to hold everything together even when no one was there to catch me. I worked full-time as a medical office coordinator, juggling paperwork, insurance battles, and anxious patients, all while keeping my own worries tucked behind a practiced smile. Through everything, I stayed close to my mother because I thought it mattered. I thought family loyalty counted for something. Diana had always been strict, judgmental, and impossible to please. But I convinced myself that age had softened her. When she complained about her health, I drove her to appointments. When she needed help with yard work, I showed up with gloves and tools. When she said her kidneys were failing, I took a deep breath and told her she wasn't alone. The truth is, I offered to be tested as a potential donor before she even hinted at needing one. I did it quietly, without any expectation of praise. I just knew that, despite everything, I didn't want Lily growing up watching her mother step aside while a parent suffered. I wanted her to see compassion, not bitterness. When the transplant team told me I was almost a perfect match, they explained the risks. I would need surgery, weeks of recovery, and a temporary break from work I couldn't really afford, but I accepted it. I felt oddly proud that I could help her. I hoped it would build a bridge that had been missing my whole life. My siblings did not share that feeling. Sabrina lived 20 minutes away but visited maybe twice a month, making sure to take selfies with my mother so it looked like she was always involved. She worked in finance and liked to remind everyone she carried the family name professionally. She never once offered to be tested as a donor. She said she was too busy and redirected the conversation to her workload. Caleb was even worse. He drifted from job to job, always ready with excuses about why he couldn't help Diana with anything more physically demanding than texting. He talked a big game about loyalty but vanished every time a bill or responsibility appeared. Yet somehow Diana still adored him. She loved his charm, the same charm he used to avoid accountability. Me? I was the one who kept showing up even when I felt invisible in my own family. That is why the dinner invitation felt like an opportunity. My mother asked us all to come as a family, her words laced with meaning she didn't bother explaining. I imagined she wanted to talk about her health, maybe even express gratitude for my decision. I imagined a real conversation, the kind we never had. I dressed nicely, not to impress her, but to feel confident. I even curled Lily's hair and let her wear her favorite blue headband. When we walked into Diana's house, the smell of roasted vegetables and her lavender candles filled the air. The table was set with her expensive china, the one she only brought out when she wanted to signal importance. Everything looked peaceful, almost warm, but the energy changed the moment I stepped in. Sabrina gave me that half smile she used when she wanted to look polite, but superior. Caleb nodded at me without standing up. Diana hugged Lily tightly but barely glanced at me. I tried to ignore it, telling myself I was imagining things. At dinner, the conversation drifted from Sabrina's new promotion to Caleb's weekend trip with friends. I sat there listening, responding when spoken to, trying to feel included. Lily quietly enjoyed her food, swinging her legs under the table. The entire time, I waited for my mother to acknowledge the upcoming transplant evaluation. I thought maybe she would say, "Harper, thank you again for doing this," or even simply, "I know this hasn't been easy." Instead, she seemed focused on appearances, making sure Sabrina looked good and Caleb felt important. Still, I kept trying to believe the night had a purpose. I held on to that hope even when the atmosphere felt like a storm gathering. I told myself families had complicated moments. I reminded myself of everything I had done for her, not because I wanted credit, but because I wanted to feel I belonged. I didn't expect gratitude, but I at least expected humanity. Instead, what I received was a cold announcement meant to cut me out of her legacy while preserving her pride. I walked into that dinner hoping for connection and left facing the truth I had avoided my entire life. That was the emotional foundation of everything that exploded afterward. Sitting at that dinner table felt like being placed on trial without knowing the charges. The air carried a strange heaviness, the kind that made every word feel sharper than it should. My mother sat at the head of the table, straight-backed and composed, acting as if she wasn't about to detonate something irreversible. Sabrina and Caleb exchanged expressions that told me they already knew more than I did, and the secrecy wrapped around them like a private joke. The first sign that something was wrong came when Sabrina poured herself a second glass of wine and gave my mother a look that wasn't subtle. It was a look of anticipation. Caleb tapped his foot under the table, bouncing his knee like he was waiting for a punchline. My mother cleared her throat and lifted her chin, and the room shifted around her as if everything had been building to this moment. "I've made a decision," she announced. Her tone was clipped, formal and deliberately cold. "Given the circumstances, I'm rewriting my will." I felt my shoulders tense. I wasn't expecting a joyful proclamation, but the way she said it made my stomach knot. She paused long enough to let the silence work for her. Then she lifted her fork and said, "She's not in it." There was no hesitation. No hesitation, no sadness, no hint of conflict, just the brutal finality of a judgment passed. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard correctly. "Who's not in it?" I asked, though I already felt the answer pressing against my chest. My mother didn't look at me when she spoke. "You." It landed like a slap. Sabrina let out an excited gasp, practically glowing with satisfaction. "Finally," she said again, sounding almost relieved. She took a bite of her food with a smug calmness, as if everything was falling into place exactly as she wanted. Caleb leaned back, crossing his arms. "Honestly, Mom, I think it's the right move. She never deserved anything anyway. Let people earn their place instead of getting things because they happen to share DNA." His voice was coated with false righteousness. He always loved to speak like he had moral authority, even though he never showed up for anything unless it benefited him. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Mom, what are you talking about? Why would you exclude me?" My mother finally looked at me, but her gaze was clinical, not maternal. "Harper, it's time you accept that not everyone contributes equally. I need to prioritize the people who have always supported me." I felt the blood drain from my face. Supported her. I couldn't believe the audacity. "I'm the one who drives you to every appointment. I organized your medications. I handled your insurance paperwork when they denied coverage." Sabrina scoffed. "Please, Harper, you did what any child would do. That doesn't mean you get a reward for it." Caleb added, "Yeah, helping families shouldn't come with expectations." Expectations. That word hit me harder than their insults. I wasn't trying to earn money. I wasn't competing. I wasn't hoping for a payout. I was trying to save her life. I swallowed the rising anger because I didn't want to break down in front of them, but the humiliation burned in places I didn't know existed. Lily looked up at me, sensing my distress even if she didn't fully understand the adult's cruelty. She whispered, "Mom, why are they talking like that?" Her small voice was the only softness in that room. Before I could comfort her, my mother continued her justification. "It's not personal. I need to ensure my legacy goes to people who align with my values." My voice cracked, but I steadied it. "And I don't?" "You've always been too emotional," she replied, as if she were pointing out a simple flaw. "Too dramatic, too sensitive. You make decisions based on feelings instead of logic. It's not a quality I want rewarded." Her words stung worse than the inheritance. This wasn't about money. This was about being erased from her life story while still being expected to sacrifice for her. Sabrina smirked. "Besides, I think Mom deserves to enjoy her final years without worrying about who's trying to take advantage." I stared at her. "Take advantage of what? I've been helping her nonstop." Caleb shrugged. "Maybe she never asked you to." That was it. The gaslighting. The cruelty. The twisting of reality into something they could weaponize against me. I felt something inside me fracture. The hurt, the betrayal, the unfairness, all of it poured into the space between us, thick and suffocating. Lily shifted in her seat, eyes darting between faces she once trusted. Then she placed her fork carefully on the table and broke the silence with the question none of them could have prepared for. "Grandma," she said, her voice quiet but clear, "does that mean you don't want the kidney anymore?" Time stopped. The cruelty, the smugness, the manipulative calm, all of it vanished in an instant as the truth dropped squarely in the middle of the table. Everything they thought they knew about control evaporated the moment a child spoke, and that was the beginning of the unraveling. When Lily spoke those words, the room shifted in a way I had never seen before. It was like the entire house inhaled and forgot how to breathe. My mother's fork hit the plate with a sharp metallic clang that echoed louder than anyone's voice had all evening. Sabrina froze, mid-wine sip, her eyes widening. Caleb's smug expression collapsed into something confused and uneasy. And Lily, my sweet girl, sat perfectly still, looking directly at her grandmother without a hint of fear. My mother cleared her throat, but the sound wavered. "What kidney?" she asked, trying to keep her tone controlled, but there was a crack in her voice that hadn't been there before. I had intended to tell her in private. I didn't want Lily to be involved. I didn't want it to look like I was holding anything over her head. But now the truth was out in the open, and there was no way to shove it back into silence. I tightened my arm around the back of Lily's chair. "The kidney I was going to donate," I said. "The surgery the transplant team scheduled for next month. The one we've been preparing for all year." Sabrina choked on her wine. "You're joking." Caleb leaned forward, his voice shaking with disbelief. "What do you mean, donor preparation? You?" I met their eyes, one by one. "Yes, me." My mother's face drained of color. She slowly pushed back her chair as if the information was physically hitting her. "You never told me the surgery date," she said. "I tried," I answered. "You brushed it off. You said you didn't want to talk about anything stressful." Sabrina threw her napkin on the table. "Why didn't Mom know about this? Why is this the first time I'm hearing it?" "Because neither of you ever asked," I replied. "Not once." The truth hung between us, heavy and undeniable. Caleb lifted his hands defensively. "Why would we ask? It's not like you're the only option. I could have been tested." "You weren't," I said bluntly. "You said you were too busy when the hospital called." He shifted uncomfortably. "I don't remember that." Of course he didn't. He never remembered anything that didn't benefit him. Sabrina glared at me. "Are you sure you're even a match? This sounds like something you made up to look good." Before I could respond, Lily spoke again with a steady, innocent logic only a child could deliver. "It's not made up. I was there when Mom talked to the doctor on the phone. They said she was the best match. They said Grandma needed help soon." My mother looked at Lily, then at me, panic slowly spreading across her face. "Harper," she whispered, "why didn't you tell me this directly?" "I've been telling you," I said quietly. "You just didn't want to hear it. You never want to hear anything that doesn't fit the reality you've created." She reached across the table, but I didn't move to meet her hand. "You can't be serious about this," she said. "You wouldn't walk away from a transplant." I felt something inside me harden. It wasn't anger, it wasn't revenge, it was clarity. For months, I prepared my body, my finances, my schedule. I rearranged my entire life to do something that would save yours. And tonight you sat here and erased me from your future, as if I meant nothing. Her eyes filled with fear, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her all night. Sabrina cut in, her voice rising in desperation. "Mom didn't mean it like that. You're twisting things." "No," I said, standing. "I'm finally seeing things exactly as they are." Lily stood too, automatically taking my hand. Her presence grounded me. My mother pushed her chair back, trying to regain authority. "Sit down, Harper. We can discuss this like adults." "For years," I said softly, "I tried to earn your approval. I tried to earn a place in this family. I offered my kidney because I thought maybe giving part of myself would finally make you see me." I shook my head. "But you didn't want me. You only wanted what I could give you." She swallowed hard. "I do need you." I closed my eyes for a moment. "Needing me is not the same as valuing me." Sabrina scoffed. "You're being dramatic." Caleb muttered, "This is ridiculous. You're overreacting." Lily looked up at them with a surprising strength in her voice. "Mom isn't overreacting. You were all being mean." My mother's face crumpled, but I didn't sit back down. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply said, "I'm done sacrificing for people who treat me like I'm disposable." Then I turned, guiding Lily toward the door. My mother's voice trembled behind me. "Harper, wait. You can't leave like this." But I didn't stop. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to win my mother's approval. I was choosing myself, and that changed everything. I reached the doorway with Lily's small hand wrapped firmly in mine when my mother's voice cracked behind me. "Harper, stop, please." It wasn't commanding. It wasn't cold. It was desperate. That alone was enough to make me pause, but not enough to turn around. I stood there, still facing the hallway, breathing deeply, trying to keep myself from shaking, not from fear, but from a lifetime of swallowed emotions that were finally rising to the surface. My entire childhood had conditioned me to respond when she used that tone, but I wasn't a child anymore, and I wasn't going to let her tone pull me back into a role that only hurt me. Sabrina slammed her wine glass down so hard it rattled the silverware. "Seriously, Harper, you're going to make this dramatic scene and ruin the whole night?" Caleb jumped in like a backup singer. "This is embarrassing. You always do this. Every time Mom says something you don't like, you make everything about you." I turned slowly and looked at them, not with anger, but with the kind of calm that felt almost foreign. "Tonight wasn't about me," I said. "It was about what all of you thought you could say without consequences." My mother stood from her chair, her hands trembling slightly. "Harper, I think we misunderstand each other. That comment about the will was taken out of context." I raised an eyebrow. "Out of context? You told your entire family I wasn't going to be included in your will. You said it to my face at a dinner you invited me to, without a hint of hesitation." Diana swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You didn't think it would hurt me." Sabrina pushed her chair back with a loud scrape. "Oh, come on. Why are you making it sound like Mom is the villain? People make changes to their wills all the time. It's not like you were promised anything." She was unraveling. I could see it in the twitch of her eyebrows, the defensive posture she relied on when the balance of control shifted. Caleb crossed his arms as if that would somehow make him look authoritative instead of guilty. Then Lily stepped forward, still holding my hand but now looking directly at her grandmother. "Grandma," she said, "if you don't want Mom in your will, then you don't want her kidney either, because that's a gift too." Her voice was clear and strong, the kind of truth only a child would dare to state without fear or tact. It was the truth all of them needed to hear. My mother visibly broke. I watched her shoulders slump as if her entire facade cracked down the middle. She pressed her hand to her chest and whispered, "I didn't know. I didn't realize how serious this was." "You didn't want to realize it," I said, "because that would have meant admitting I was doing something for you that no one else in this room would even consider." Sabrina snapped, "You don't get to guilt trip Mom. You weren't doing this out of kindness. You were doing it because you wanted something in return." Before I could respond, Lily lifted her chin. My mom never wanted anything. She just wanted Grandma to feel better. The room went silent again. For once, Sabrina had no quick comeback. Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it. The confidence they had the entire evening evaporated. My mother took a shaky step closer. "Harper," she murmured, "I was wrong. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said any of that. I didn't think it mattered to you." The absurdity of that statement sliced through me. "You didn't think being erased from your legacy would matter?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I thought you would always be here. I thought you would always forgive me." There it was, the truth she never said out loud. She believed my loyalty was guaranteed. She thought no matter how much she ignored, criticized, or minimized me, I would remain the daughter who kept showing up. For the first time, she realized that wasn't true. I shook my head slowly. "I was willing to give you part of my body, Mom. I was willing to undergo surgery, pain, and months of recovery. I did it because I believed that somewhere inside you, there was a mother who loved me." My voice didn't waver. "But tonight showed me that you love the idea of me more than the actual person." Sabrina let out a frustrated groan. "You're blowing everything out of proportion." Lily turned toward her aunt and said, "No, you're just scared." Sabrina froze. My mother's voice cracked completely. "I need you, Harper. Please don't leave." I squeezed Lily's hand. I looked at the 3 grown adults who had spent years diminishing me. I looked at the daughter who saw my worth without conditions. And I looked at my mother, who only valued me when she felt something slipping out of her control. Then I took a breath and said the words that turned the night into something none of them could take back. I won't give my kidney to someone who can't even give me respect." The moment those words left my mouth, the balance of power shifted permanently, and the room finally understood they had gone too far. When I walked out of my mother's house that night, the air outside felt colder than usual, not in temperature, but in the way truth feels after it's been dragged into the open. Lily held my hand tightly, matching my steps, her face a mix of concern and quiet pride. I didn't speak until we reached the car, and even then my voice came out slow and steady. "You did nothing wrong," I told her. "You were brave." She nodded, leaning against me. "I didn't want them to hurt you anymore." Her words wrapped around my heart with a tenderness that made my eyes sting. I kissed the top of her head, grateful for her honesty, grateful that she saw me when the people who should have known me best never bothered to. When we got home, I put Lily to bed, tucked her in, and sat beside her until she fell asleep. Only then did the tears come. Quiet tears, the kind that release more than sadness. Tears that wash out buried hurt, resentment, guilt, and the need to keep pretending everything is fine. For years, I had accepted the role my mother gave me, the helper, the emotional sponge, the daughter who never asked for anything even when she deserved everything. That night, the script changed. I was no longer the daughter begging for a place at the table. I was the woman who finally recognized her worth. The next morning, I contacted the transplant coordinator. My hands were steady when I spoke. "I need to withdraw as a donor," I said. "I'm no longer emotionally comfortable proceeding." The coordinator didn't pressure me. She simply said, "It's important for donors to feel supported and safe. If that isn't the case, this is the right decision." It was validating to hear someone state plainly what my family refused to acknowledge. Later that afternoon, my phone began buzzing nonstop. My mother called first, then Sabrina, then Caleb. They left voicemails that started with confusion, shifted to anger, and finally landed on frantic demands. Sabrina's message was sharp. "You can't do this to Mom. She needs you. You're being selfish." Caleb's was louder. "Grow up. You're punishing everyone because your feelings got hurt." My mother's messages came last. Her voice sounded strained, trembling. "Harper, please talk to me. I didn't mean anything I said. I wasn't thinking. I was overwhelmed. I didn't realize you were serious about the transplant." Serious, as if volunteering to undergo surgery had been a casual hobby. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I spent the evening with Lily, making dinner together and watching her favorite movie. As she laughed, I felt a calm I hadn't experienced in years. I wasn't waiting for a call. I wasn't bracing for criticism. I wasn't fighting for approval. I was simply living. The following week, my mother showed up at my house unannounced. When I opened the door, she looked smaller than usual. Not physically, but in spirit. She stepped forward, clasping her hands together. "Harper, I'm so sorry," she said. Her voice was fragile, stripped of her usual control. "I made a terrible mistake. I let my pride and insecurities get in the way. I didn't mean to push you away." I believed she felt regret, but regret is not the same as change. I let her inside, but I kept my boundaries high and clear. I told her, "Mom, I don't hate you. I never did. But I can't sacrifice myself for someone who doesn't value me unless they're afraid of losing something." She sat on the edge of the couch, wiping her eyes. "I thought you would always be there." "That's the problem," I said gently. "You never thought you could lose me." My mother reached for my hand, but I folded my arms. The space between us felt honest for the first time. She understood that I wasn't being dramatic or vengeful. I was protecting myself. We talked for nearly an hour. She apologized again. She offered explanations, excuses, reflections. I listened, but I didn't let myself get pulled back into the cycle I'd repeated my entire life. Before she left, she said, "I want to fix things, Harper. I want to earn back your trust." "I hope you do," I replied, "but it has to start with you, not with what you want from me." That night, for the first time in my life, I felt something I had never felt after a confrontation with my mother. Peace. Over the next month, there were no dramatic scenes, no shouting matches, no manipulative texts. My siblings continued blaming me, but it didn't matter anymore. Their anger no longer had power over me. I realized that peace isn't about healing every relationship. It's about removing yourself from the ones that damage you. Lily asked me one night, "Are we still family with them?" I pulled her close and answered, "We are family with people who respect us. Blood alone doesn't make someone ours." That became my lesson from all of this. I learned that loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. I learned that being loyal doesn't require accepting disrespect. And I learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who only value you when they need something from you. My mother didn't just lose a kidney donor that night. She lost the version of me who tolerated everything. And I gained the version of myself who finally understood her worth. That night changed my entire life, not because of what my family did to me, but because of what I finally did for myself. For the first time, I stopped chasing acceptance that was never going to come. I stopped trying to earn a place in a family that only valued me when it was convenient. And I chose peace, dignity, and self-respect over guilt and obligation. Lily taught me more in one dinner conversation than I had learned in decades of trying to please everyone. She reminded me that love isn't proven through sacrifice. It's proven through respect, honesty, and the way people show up when it matters most. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to keep giving to people who only take. If you've ever felt overlooked, unappreciated, or pushed aside by the very people who should have treated you with love, I hope this story reminds you of something important. Your worth is not defined by their blindness. You don't need to shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You don't need to break yourself to keep their world intact. You deserve the same loyalty you give. Thank you for listening to my story, for feeling it with me, and for letting me share a piece of my heart with you. If this resonated with you, if it made you think, or if it made you feel less alone in your own journey, then I'm grateful. And if you want more stories like this, stories about strength, truth, and the moments that change everything, make sure you like the video, share it, comment on it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach more people who might need them. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.